Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to Step Through the Ropes, Volume 25. Now, throughout the years of tag team wrestling, there are so many who never got their due, especially Ron and Don, the Harris brothers. These two men, well, they're very tall men. They basically just couldn't get a break over all these years throughout their time in professional wrestling. They were in Smoky Mountain Wrestling for a time. That was about 1993 to 94. In 94, they went to ECW and they feuded with Public Enemy, rest their souls. But then in later on 1994, they came to WCW for the first time as the Bruise Brothers. Didn't last too long, as their final appearance was losing a tag team match to Hulk Hogan and Sting, which aired on WCW Worldwide. Then in 1995, they debuted at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view under the names Jacob and Eli Blue, where they were managed by their storyline uncle, Zebekiah, who later became Zeb Coulter, but most people know him as Dirty Dutch Mantel. Jacob and Eli Blue, they opened up WrestleMania 11, losing to the Allied Powers, Lex Luger and the late Davey Boy Smith. They were among Sid's Lumberjacks at the second ever In Your House pay-per-view. They were defeated by the Smoking Guns at SummerSlam 95, and along the way, they were defeated by Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, and I'd say in the fall of 95, they left the WWF for the very first time. Then they end up back in ECW in 1996 as a part of Raven's Nest, and then they come back to the WWF with shaved heads, as they were known as Jason and Jared, the Grimm Twins. I don't think they had too much television time back in 96, and I don't know if they were just kept off TV for a while, but in 1997 they were repackaged as two members of the Disciples of Apocalypse, along with Crush, rest his soul, and Chains, which they were a motorcycle faction that feuded with the Nation of Domination, and Los Boricuas, led by Savio Vega. They were defeated. The DOA was defeated by Los Boricuas at SummerSlam 97. They defeated Los Boricuas in a rematch at the In Your House Bad Blood pay-per-view, which featured the first ever Hell in a Cell match. The DOA was defeated by the Truth Commission at Survivor Series 1997, entitled Gang Rules. And by the end of 1997, Crush had left the WWF. And basically, they became kind of started falling down, spiraling down, seemingly. Chains, Skull, and 8-Ball were participants in the 1998 Royal Rumble, but Skull did not come out, as he was attacked by Los Boricuas earlier in the show. The three remaining DOA members joined forces with Ahmed Johnson and Ken Shamrock to defeat the Nation of Domination, Farouk, Rocky Maivia, D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry, and Kama Mustafa at the No Way Out of Texas pay-per-view, and that 10-man tag was billed as the War of Attrition. Not sure what that word means. Chains and joined forces with Bradshaw, while Skull and 8-Ball, they entered the Tag Team Battle Royal that opened up WrestleMania 14, and they did not win that one. Skull and 8-Ball, actually all three members of the DOA, formed a short-lived alliance with LOD 2000 in what could have been a good feud with D-Generation X, but that dissolved as DX's popularity continued to rise, and the DOA and Legion of Doom feuded with each other, where Darren Drozdov was brought in as a friend of the Legion of Doom, and they nicknamed him Puke. And eventually, Precious Paul Ellering, the LOD's longtime manager, he actually returned after being out of wrestling for years. However, he aligned himself with the DOA, and he managed them as DOA. Things started to turn around for them as they defeated LOD 2000 at the Fully Loaded 1998 pay-per-view. They defeated the combination of Bradshaw and Vader, rest his soul, at actually was on a match on Sunday Night Heat right before the SummerSlam 98 pay-per-view. They then, I believe, Skull Chains, I think, eventually ended up leaving. Skull and 8-Ball then worked along with Ellering, did some six-mans with the Legion of Doom and Droz. And really, the DOA were like mostly featured on Shotgun Saturday Night, which later became Metal or Jacked. And then they really didn't do much in 1999. Ultimately left the WWF in 99. Later that year, Ron and Don returned to WCW for the first time in years, and they were groomed as Patrick and Gerald, Creative Control. These two. They were supposed to be like the muscle of the powers that be, which of course we know Vince Russo was behind that, and the names Patrick and Gerald were shots at Gerald Briscoe and the late Pat Patterson. As Creative Control, they wound up winning the Tag Team Championship from... I can't remember who they won the belts from, but I don't think it lasted too long, because they were defeated by Goldberg and Bret Hart in December of 1999, and eventually, by the end of 99, the Powers That Be angle was done with, and Ron and Don Harris became part of NWO 2000 with Bret Hart, Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett, Scott Hall, and Scott Steiner, even though that NWO fell apart due to Bret being injured. Kevin Nash was commissioned for a short time, but then he got hurt. Wow. Then Scott Hall, I think, was not seen on WCW television for a while, and the whole NWO 2000 had dissolved by the spring of 2000. But in the process, Ron and Don Harris won the WCW Tag Team Championship at the Uncensored 2000 pay-per-view, defeating, whether you call them the Mamaloons or the Paisans, Big Vito and Johnny the Bull. Harris brothers never did lose WCW Tag Team titles, as they vacated the belts on April 10th of 2000, which was the night Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff hit the reset button on WCW, and all championships were stripped that night. And Ron and Don, they didn't. I think later that year they eventually got released from WCW. I think Ron or Don, one of them was part of the early days of TNA. He was helping out with the ring crew, and yeah, it was Don Harris. I know it's hard to tell them apart because they're twins. And Don Harris, I believe, he had a match during the Wednesday night pay-per-view era of TNA, and he came to the ring wearing a Nazi T-shirt, or with a swastika on it, I believe. And I think a week or so later, TNA apologized publicly to everyone about that. But eventually, Ron and Don Harris were known as the Disciples of Destruction, where they were managed by Tracy Brooks for a time, and I don't think they were too successful around that time, and both the Harris brothers have since retired from professional wrestling. But what do you all think? You think they got pretty much a raw deal, or haven't gotten the due they got? Let me know what you think in your comments, folks. I mean, even as Jacob and Eli blew, I thought there was potential to be had. Let me know what you all think, if the Harris brothers deserved better or not.